Won't you take me back to Tennessee?
The award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest info about hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. This episode is brought to you by GSM Outdoors, whose vision is to preserve the sportsman's legacy, fuel innovation, and enable the next generation of outdoor enthusiasts. Think outside. That's where you'll find us. Now, make welcome your host, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today.
We sure do. A good old friend come back to visit today.
A good friend, Keith Beam with GSM Outdoors, is with us again this week to talk more about knives. We're doing SOG this week, and we're going to give those away to you listening, watching, if you engage with us. So more on that to come. Don King, help us welcome in a radio partner.
Yeah, WMOD in Bolivar, Tennessee. And they are keen on playing the Wildcast Extras. That's the 5-minute version that gets edited out. And throughout the week, you hear the whole show, but you got to do it in 5-minute increments. So anyway, about 8:15 every morning, you'll hear Wildcast Extras.
I'd call that drive time, wouldn't you?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, as you're on your way to the office, tune us in on that station. And we're on many stations across the state, and we really appreciate our radio partners, whether it's an early Saturday morning, early Sunday morning, or a drive time. Tune us in. And you can find us on your favorite podcasting platform. That's where I like to listen to podcasts and shows, and I listen to a lot of them out there, but Wildcast is one of my favorites.
We're everywhere.
We appreciate everybody out there tuning us in. Like I said before, this show is all about SOG, and we'll learn more about that company today. We'll learn about more about Keith Beam, introduce him. But I want to remind you, to win these products we're going to talk about today, you need to like, subscribe, and share our show on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you find us, even on Spotify or your favorite podcasting platform. Tag a friend. That's another way you get your name in the hat.
Yep.
So all those engagement and engaging with us that way helps.
Then
you.
that gets your friend in too, right?
Yeah, get your friend in.
Yeah.
So, and we'll draw the name. We draw one every month, and this month is SOG. So, Keith, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I was laughing. You said you cut it down into 5-minute increments. I'm thinking those are the favorite ones because it gets rid of him talking for 23 of them. Mm-hmm.
If you heard the previous show, we all know Keith is a talker, so he, which helps us out
in a really good way. Good way.
Yeah, but a lot of great information, a lot of cool stories that we shared in the last show. You'll have to go back and watch that one, listen to that one.
What a heritage Keith has in the outdoors. I mean, he runs the gamut in being inventive and seeking patents on a lot of these things that are things that our outdoor users use every day. So
yeah.
I've been blessed with a very creative brain. My mom and dad might have disagreed with that. Really, son, you should stop staring out the window and designing things and maybe pay attention to your teacher. So.
Hey, everybody learns and creates in different ways.
Yep, they sure do.
That's exactly it.
So for the folks who didn't hear the last show, just a little bit about yourself. I'll throw in the Director of Product Innovation for GSM at this point, but a little bit of your background for the folks who are just tuning in.
Well, I grew up as a very avid hunter and fisher in Illinois. With my father was an Army Ranger, and I had 2 older brothers, and we were diehard duck hunters and pheasant hunters, and that's all we did. I didn't even start hunting turkeys until I went to college down in southern Arkansas, down in Magnolia, Arkansas, and there's where they taught me how to hunt birds, and it became a super passion, and I had good success at it, doing Mark Twain National Forest in southern Missouri and hunting northern Arkansas and so on and so forth. But I fell in love with shooting a recurve, and I fell in love with chasing stuff with a bow, and I really wanted to start pursuing turkeys with archery equipment. And there were some great people out there. Pete Shepley was one of them. Dave Michaels out of Nebraska. A couple guys that you had seen on these videos, and that's back in the VHS days, that you'd seen on these videos of killing a turkey with a bow. Uh-huh. And so when I got out of college and I went to work for W.W. Granger, I got moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was matching some gear motors out there for those guys. And they had just a plethora of wild Merriams running around. I mean, like, everybody always challenges you need to come hunt the smart bird that we have down here. Will Primos told me that, and I'm like, okay, why? I'll go hunt something stupid. Why frustrate myself? I'm supposed to work smart, not hard.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I got into chasing turkeys out there, hiding behind cottonwoods, build my own little brush blinds.
Yeah.
And there was a blind company called the Black Hole Blind. Keith Meneke was the only one. I found it in Traditional Bowhunter magazine. It was a little black and white ad. And I called it up, and it was like this giant cylinder of fabric, and it had hoops in it and barge rope, and you throw it up over, and you stretch this thing out, and you stake it down, and that's where you were. And I actually had success out of it, but you couldn't move it. And so I got real frustrated, so I started building spring steel blinds, like the outhouse, the dog house, and stuff like that you see with a Maristep blind. And I still, it would flap in the wind, it would shake in the breeze, and spooking animals. And it's tough with a recurve because you're canting your bow, and it's a 62-inch recurve. It's not a 40-inch compound.
Yeah.
So it was quite challenging. Met a gentleman in aerodynamics out in Fort Collins, Colorado, that had the patent applied for on the hub that is in all your pop-up hub-style blinds. So we bought the patent rights off of him, paid him royalty throughout it, and that's how Double Bowl got started. It was Brooks Johnson and I started it in 1993. 95 would have been the first year that we truly released the ground blinds commercially, and it took off as nothing else, and it was crazy and out of control. And then we sold to Primos in 2007, and then I ran around the country with Will till 2015. And that's when I launched a kids book line called Drake's Adventures, and it's a sound interactive kids line to get kids more interested in the honors and traditions of hunting.
Very cool.
So I've always wanted to give back to the industry that's given to me, and I'm very grateful for that. I've been blessed with a interesting brain, nonetheless, that I can create things that solve some problems. I've never focused so much on building a different mousetrap as far as let's do something completely out of the box.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. I designed a couple broadheads for new archery products. I went over to work for them full time, and then GSM Outdoors came in and procured NAP. I went to work for GSM Outdoors, and throughout those years, we acquired Cold Steel, SOG, Camillus, and I became the face of Cold Steel and started working with SOG on the knife world. And I'm not a blacksmith. I'm not a forger. I'm an athlete that likes to throw things, and that makes a lot of people squeamish at times because I'll throw anything. That if you love your $300 knife, you probably don't want to hand it to me because I will try to stick it in that wall. And that's how it got started. So we're here, on the SOG thing, and SOG is a neat company. It's Studies and Observation Group. And I think it was started in 1986. Spencer Frazer started it. Tried to build the tactical buoy. Okay. And SOG is truly, I don't want to say it's a full tactical company as much as it really touches on a lot of breaths right now. You're talking about camping. You're talking about probably one of the coolest everyday carry companies, your pocket knife, your folding apparatus. And SOG, between the steels they use, the designs they use, and the color combinations that give it a classy look and this kind of urban feel, I don't think it's matched by anybody.
Yeah. Well, it's from what I've seen so far, it's a really cool brand. It looks, like you said, it looks awesome. It's quality. So I'm excited to dive into these today. We're quick. Talk about the throwing a little bit before we dive into these products. I think that's a cool thing. I've done some knife throwing, like at these little, axe throwing things. You can throw knives too, but just talk a little bit about that.
So back to my mom and dad telling me to pay attention to the teacher. So axe throwing, I was invited to go throw in these axe leagues, and you throw it 10 feet, and those guys and girls are fantastic at it. Okay, they're very talented.
There's a rhythm there,
Yeah, it's a one rotation rhythm. Me, I'm not talking that. I'm talking about airing things out. Okay, I played pro baseball in the minor leagues. I was drafted twice out of college, and I believe in throwing things distances.
Okay,
there's nothing more satisfying. You might throw 30 times to hit the tree, and the 35th time it goes, in the tree, and you're like, yeah,
Get it.
I am
So it's
him.
like slinging it from center field.
Well, yeah, you got Jason Statham in Hollywood, he throws it one time and it sticks right next to the guy's head, and you're like, wow, that's cool. But when in reality, I know how many throws it takes to do that. It's just edited down so I look like a hero. But no, I got into throwing and I started looking at all these world records. And the hatchet indoor world record with a competition hatchet was like 23 yards. So what I do, I went out and I threw it until I nailed the bull at 27 on video. And I'm like, yeah. And then I took the GI Tanto, which is a fixed blade knife from Cold Steel. And it is kind of an entry-level knife. And it just felt good in my hands. And I went out, and the world record on that was like 31 yards. And I buried it in the bull at 43 on video with non-family witnesses there.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, I can turn these things loose. I fell in love with throwing smaller hatchets. And SOG's got some great throwing hatchets.
Yeah.
That one lands in the bull at 50 and a half yards is what I threw that at. Now, Brian and I, the rep for GSM Outdoors, and him and I are pretty honest with each other. And he's asked me when he's watched some of these videos, he's like, how many times does that take? I said, well, the 40 by 40 inch board, I threw 32 times before I made impact. Okay. You can throw a baseball. You can throw things. There's a lot of things. When you throw something flat, it doesn't matter if the wind's blowing left or right. You think you're playing the wind, and all of a sudden, there's the perfect release, and then it falls short. There's the perfect release, and it sails 7 feet over the back of it. And you're like, my arm speed is the same. And I'll tell you something about throwing long distance, and you guys will appreciate this. So if you throw full bore, like you're pitching a game, okay, move your target to that distance. Don't try to slow it down to throw. If you're throwing, and let's say you're new to throwing hatchets or whatever, and 20 yards is the max you can throw it, don't frustrate yourself by putting the target at 17. Put it where you throw hard at and where it lands, and then adjust according to the rotation of that weapon. So if it's hitting blade back, come back a half a yard or go forward. Just catch the rotation right. But don't sit there and everybody that does this, everybody I get out there and throw with, they're like, yeah, I got to throw it like 3/4 arm. If you guys remember baseball, Steve Sachs from the Dodgers couldn't throw from second base to first base because it was a lob-type toss, so he had to retire. I mean, it got in his head that he couldn't do it. And it's that way when you're throwing knives, and I throw a lot of folders, and I throw anything that I feel that I can get rid of. It's kind of fun just to see. And I just mark off yardages where I'm throwing full bore. And I'm old. I got to be careful. I've had my rotator cuff fixed twice. But it's one of those things that I sit there and I go, yeah, I'm going to back up another foot, and just dial in the rotation, then dial in the distance of where you're at rather than fight it. 10 yards, I'm not that person. It's like ADHD. It's like, okay, I'm doing one rotation. It's not. In my head, it's not near as glamorous. Those guys are fantastic. The ladies that do it are fantastic. Kudos to them. I don't throw in dart leagues because I believe in getting my arm extended. I'm not. This isn't me.
Here it comes.
Okay. Yeah. Nope. I'm not drawing inside. I'm not coloring inside the lines. Okay. This is one rotation. Perfect. No, I got to air this thing out. The guy's trying to score on me from second, so I'm turning it loose.
So that's cool. I've done it a few times. But I felt like overhand would in those smaller controlled areas. Overhand would slow it down just enough for me to hit quite right. Or instead of But anyway, it's a fun thing to do. If you can do it, go out and try it.
It is great. And SOG, the neat thing about SOG is we have some dual spikes. Okay, so like if you take your throwing competition axes, they have the flat part and then they have the blade.
Okay,
you have a spike on the back of this with like I want to call it like a beard blade on the front of it, and it's going to stick on 3 points. Okay, so
that's cool.
You've up your odds quite a bit. And so if you're taking kids out or your wife out, or you're out there at a campground or something, you get yourself 3 or 4 of these. Don't just buy one, because the problem with one is I know my arm speed and I had the distance right. I just stuck it in that tree. I come back here. Am I in that same spot? What was my arm speed?
Oh yeah.
But if you get into that rhythm, Okay, like on number 2, you stuck it. I guarantee you, number 3 and 4, you're going to. You're in that same spot with the same arm speed, and that's where it's probably not fair for people to say I'm going to challenge you to throw. Like when I go out, I might have a sled, an igloo sled that's got 45 hatchets in it. I'm not moving until I'm making a home run out of this thing. So I'm taking it a little bit different. I might get them given to me from my company, but my company right now is going, cut him out of the budget right now. Scratch him.
Well, let's dive in. You've brought a few things with you. We didn't bring a hatchet today, but
no, and we can show those. SOG has camping equipment and tactical and everyday carry and everyday use. Okay, so it really is one of those things from the baddest, meanest SEAL defense team all the way to the guy that needs something that he wants to have in the campground and a folding little shovel. And when you talk about like folding little shovels in our little flip open shovel, I live up in Wisconsin. We carry a shovel because you get stuck in the ditch.
Oh, yeah.
It's necessary. And just to have one of those along, you don't know how often you use it until you do. And it's one of those things, doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's great to have in the car, just as well as a lot of things. But right here,
the lightest knife in the world, I would say.
Yeah, this is our Ultra XR. It's got the XR lock, which SOG is known for. It's a carbon fiber, but it has CPM S35 VN on the steel, which is a steel that holds its edge. It's corrosive resistance. It's fantastic. It's coated. I'll just pass that around there.
It's unbelievable how light that
Let me see if I can see the weight.
It's about the size of a credit card in length, I guess.
Yeah.
But once you flip it out,
1.2 ounces.
1.2 ounces. Look at that.
And it's so thin.
It is.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And it's perfect for people that like to carry a pocket knife, that want something that's durable enough that'll handle it, that when you cut one box open, it's not going to get dull. That S35 VM with that grind will hold it and hold an edge. It's just, it's true, if you backed away from the tactical, it would be probably a great representative of what SOG's breadth is in the everyday carry. There's a knife that I love that we'll show a little picture of. The KIKU XR, okay? And it's got a micarta handle, and there's one with a G10 handle on it. It has the SR lock, has the flip assist, and it's that swooped blade that I love so much for skinning animals and doing work like that. I don't necessarily want this super divine tip because I do a lot of prying. I like to... I break things. Okay, I've just been doing that my whole life. I wrote a book about it, actually, of that's going to leave a mark, and I brought you guys a copy.
Thanks. I've been looking for that one.
Yeah.
He's not lying.
No, he thought I was kidding. So this is 20 short stories told in a very humorous way of me being the most accident-prone person on earth. The only person that did not like those stories was my mother. She's like, honey, I took you to the emergency room on most of these. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Mom. My brothers thought it was funny as all get up because they caused most of it. So, yeah, that's what older brothers are for. But
can we put that in the giveaway?
Yeah, do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We'll autograph it. It's available on Amazon. That's Going to Leave a Mark by Keith Beam.
I love it. That's cool. So let's go back to the knife. You talked about the edge and how it holds good edge. Talk a little bit about sharpening and taking care of the knife once you...
The big thing with knives is if you use them and use them a lot, oil them. Okay? In order for it to be sharpenable, okay, it's going to have less and less chromium in it. And when you do that, you run that corrosion area into that. So the people, and you've probably seen it, the old timers with the stone and the oil and whatever, they take care of blades. That's one of the things that I've learned just in my last 4 years of doing cutlery with GSM Outdoors is really the maintenance on them is really necessary. And it's not just because you cut, a salmon with it or a fish or a chicken or something like that. But if you're cutting a lot with this thing, keep it oiled. We have a sharpener. A lot of the grinds are very easy. S35 is a tough steel, okay, but it holds a great edge, so it's a little harder to sharpen than your 420 stainless steel. Okay, you'll be able to sharpen that quick, but it goes dull quick, okay? So, there's trade-offs to both of them.
Sure.
Like our Seal XR and the SOG has Magna Cut for steel, which is a super steel, so to speak. Problem will be when you dull it finely, you run that risk of I'm going to sit here on a stone or with a sharpener and sharpen it quite well. So there are trade-offs to it. One of the neat things about any of the knives, little facets are how does it open? I've talked to you guys on the last show, and I'll tell the viewers here, I don't have feeling in these 3 fingers. I had my whole ulnar nerve, which is your funny bone nerve, removed from the bone joint and put underneath my bicep because I ripped it off of my hand. And so I can't really feel things, so I don't know when I'm touching stuff down here. And so it's when I go to pick a knife, and that's why I like the flip assist, like you and I were talking about, like the KIKU XR. I can do this and it opens, okay? When I do this, I can do this with this XR, but not very many knives can I open like that. So I look for assist. And SOG has autos, which are really nice. You pull back on the XR lock and it snaps open with the same kind of housing right here, and there's a little bigger one. But like the XR with the Magna Cut, the neat thing about it is you've got the regular blade out front. Okay, I think it's a clip point blade out front, and then it steps into serration on the bottom part of it.
Okay,
and that's great. Like a lot of people are cutting baling twine, or you're cutting rope, or you're cutting cable ties, or something like that. And being able to bite in there where you got control of your hand and then pull against that is fantastic. When you look at a serration and how it tears through, Lynn Thompson from Cold Steel will tell you that a serration always has one more cut in it, and you can dull a blade where I could run this on barge rope and it's not going to do anything, but a serration will still bite it, and they're tougher to sharpen. There's always trade-offs to it. There's no answer to everything until they come out with lightsabers.
They don't have those?
Yeah, real ones. Yeah. then we'll all be missing arms, but we'll be cauterized, so it'll be okay. I needed that for the book.
No blood.
Yeah. Hey, wow, I just missed my arm. Mom?
Back to the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, and in my cutlery world, I can tell you right now, there's been some really good visits to the ER room to explain funny things to them. And they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I throw knives and cut with swords. They're like, oh, no wonder you're bleeding. Yeah.
Oh.
And these are sharp. We took one of the machetes, and I was cutting a tree, and I did tactically wrong. Lynn Thompson has taught me over and over how to hold things. And if you're doing something that you're really not familiar with, jump on YouTube, for goodness sakes, and pay attention to somebody that does know, because there are ways. And I was a baseball player, right? So I'm following through this way. That leaves that open knee out front. Bad with swords, okay? So if it kicks off the bamboo, what's it do? It takes your kneecap off.
Oh,
gosh. Lynn's been med-flight a few times for that. But if you step with this, then it's open. So it's learning footwork. But anyhow, I took this machete, whacked a tree, and it skipped. And I was like, ow, I hit my foot. And I was like, wow, that's bad. So I'm going to go in. I was watching the footage, and I'm like, wow, I smacked my foot pretty good. It was snowing. It was in January. And I opened the door of the shop, and I'm like, oh, you can blood trail me. That's funny. I haven't even looked down at my boot. And I wear a leather boot, man. And it cut through the top of my boot. That's how sharp this is. And lacerated the top of my foot. And I'll send you pictures. You can add that part in. But it was amazing what one swing did. And that's when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, you got to be cognizant of what you're playing with.
Yeah.
It's the first time I ever brought knives home to my son. I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be doing all these YouTube videos and stuff for SOG and Cold Steel and whatever. And I said, be careful. This knife's sharp. And it wasn't 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Dad? But I'm bleeding pretty bad. He was like, the knife shut on my finger, and it cut him across the back of the knuckle.
Oh, gosh.
And it's you can't warn people enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell my son all the time, be careful. He loves knives and loves to, collect them and things, but it's dangerous. It can be dangerous.
It is. They're a great tool. That's the neat thing about SOG. If you think about the different knife lines from, great entry level like our Camillus line, or, some of the tactical zombie apocalypse or replicas of historian cold steel days, the SOG truly is like the tool. Okay, that's how I see it, whether it be military, whether you're looking at a Recondo or a Pentagon or something like that, or if you're looking at just an everyday carry, it's really going to be hard to beat that as a tool. There's a bunch of cold steels that are perfect tools. Okay, I think I showed you one the other day. I showed you that Raja 3, that little tiny one with the swoop kukri blade. That's what I carry. I like that, and it's one of those things. Know what you want. Lynn Thompson always said, let's see if I get this right. You can do everything that a small knife can do with a big knife, but you can't do everything that a big knife can do with a small knife. Whew. Good.
That's a 10.
I got a 10 on that thing. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I like
60-year-old man out here. Quick, reboot him. But people overstep things. You don't need to have that much. What are you using it for? Mm-hmm. You're cutting boxes at the warehouse.
Yeah.
You might be dressing some pheasants or quail. You don't need a Tonto blade and a 10-inch blade on this thing.
Right,
so that's where SOG, I really think, really fits into everything, is not only its design, but its look, its feel, and its functionality. And it's really hard to beat. I know we're going to give these away, but we can show a different plethora of photos of them.
Yeah.
But they are a great company with a great legacy, and it's something that we're honored to carry that on.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you spoke about the pheasant or the quail. What kind of game lines do you have, or what kind of knife? What SOG knife would you suggest for the hunter or for the fisherman to? Okay,
so for the hunter, my favorite is the KIKU XR. Okay, and that has a more of a leaf blade, a drop point blade on it.
Okay.
Great jimping so that you can get up. You can cape with this thing. It's not fine detailed, but it's one of those things that I think if you were looking for the overall hunting knife, it would probably be the KIKU XR as far as a folding EDC from SOG.
All right. What about for fishing?
I would probably go more into that Recondo line where you had a little longer blade on that. You guys catch big crappie down here.
Fillet action.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So that's the way that I would lean that way.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the info today, Keith. SOG, great product. Very cool knife that we're going to give away. Remind folks at home, like, subscribe, share, and then comment. Tag somebody in the comments to get your name in the hat. The more you engage, the more chances you have. Thank you for being here, Keith.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to have you back because we want to talk more about the archery products and the blinds and things like that as we get closer to deer season. So watch for Keith to come back. And we didn't plug Smoky Mountain Knife Works, but we really appreciate them. They carry all these products from SOG to Cold Steel to Camillus. Great products.
Run the gamut.
Right here in Tennessee, you can find them. So
exactly.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, this is Tennessee Wildcast. Thank you for watching, for listening, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org. And follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can invest in Tennessee's wildlife future by purchasing a license at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. That's GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.